Yeah, well, you mentioned a study in your book from 2015 by Michael Freeman who showed that there is a mental health issue amongst entrepreneurs, as he found like 49% of entrepreneurs had dealt with some kind of mental health challenge. And as he describes in the study, people who are on the energetic, motivated, and creative side are both more likely to be an entrepreneur, but also more likely to have strong emotional states. And I think that speaks to the challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs face. And you mentioned these discoveries. And I know that that is at the beginning of the book before you go into the 10 disciplines. So I would love for you to explain what are these discoveries? What are the three and what do they mean individually?
Yeah. So first to the study, which I'm so glad you referenced that. I appreciate that because yes, 49% have that and 51% don't. So some people they don't have that, but there's still things to look at from the inside and especially when you go into entrepreneurship. So I want, for the audience, please keep that in mind because these things are still important even if you're not in that 49%. So the first thing is that you are driven, and there's a small percentage of the population that is. And thank goodness, by the way, because could you imagine everybody in the world? Was something a little over 8 billion human beings. Imagine 50 or 80% or 100% of them being driven. It'd be a crazy place. So basically speaking, there's around 10% of the population is said to be driven in all sorts of modalities, professions and all these kinds of things. 4% are entrepreneurial. Okay, so 4% of 8 billion, you're in a very small category. So know that. Next thing to know is that it's a blessing to be driven, but it's also a curse. And there's some good stuff that comes along with this and some bad stuff, and we have to accept it and we have to embrace it. And we, most importantly, have to manage it. We have to manage it. So the blessing part of it is we're born with this superhuman stamina, this strength, this resilience that we have. And we are the creators of most things on this planet. The driven entrepreneur, the things that we use, the widgets, you know, that's where it comes from. So it's a blessing. But the curse is we do a lot of damage to ourselves and the other people around us because we have a certain intensity that they don't have. And we don't understand it. We don't understand why they don't have that. We don't get it. There's a great book. When you're finished with ours, we encourage you to pick up a book called Driven by Dr. Doug Brackman. He writes in the book, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. It's actually genetic. So he did some studies on this, and there's a D2, D4 gene that has a flaw in it. The receptors don't fire, so we never fully feel rewarded or enough. Your genetic difference can lead you to feel there is something wrong with you, and the associated shame can create a hellish existence. The driven are at risk for addictions they believe will provide relief. They are innately pulled toward the success they believe will leave them feeling rewarded. Finally, the driven are different. They're wired to feel they're never enough and it's never enough. And they're always looking for something better. So maybe some of the driven entrepreneurs listening to this will relate. And then we we were having a conversation with a friend of ours, Justin Breen, who works with entrepreneurs, and he shared with us that he had yet to meet an entrepreneur who hasn't experienced one of the following: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, heightened levels of anxiety, depression, or traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. And as we were discussing this, Gino and I threw in addiction. And addiction is doing something compulsively in excess that usually is not good for you, like work, food, porn, drugs, alcohol, gambling, TV, social media, gaming, shopping, just to name a few. And so these are ways we numb ourselves. And work is one of the key ones that we don't pay attention to because we're heralded for how hard we work. I think you mentioned hustle culture, earlier. People are impressed with how hard we work and how successful we're becoming. And it's an escape for us. It truly is. So that's discovery number one. I am driven, and it's important to be aware of it and to manage it, most importantly. So I'll pause there. And if there's anything you want to ask or question about that, please do, or I'll move on to the second discovery.
I would just add that I remember there was a recent episode by Huberman, it might be episode number 55, in which he talks about stress and fear. And what resonated with me is that fear is amongst one of the most powerful motivators that we can have. And it allows us to do amazing things. But simultaneously, it is probably one of the worst in terms of our physical and emotional health, and that it is possible. While it seems that we gravitate towards fear, like the fear of running out of money, the fear of what if I'm not successful, the fear of supporting my family, the fear of looking ridiculous if I fail, and those can allow us to make some monumental achievements. It also really dampens our own emotional and physical health. And so while it is easy to default to that fear response, it is possible to find that positive, that ability that we're being pulled towards the future. And I feel like that's definitely where I'm at right now. I'm trying to go from surviving to thriving, as one would say. And there was a book that I feel like I probably mention every other episode, is called The Second Mountain by David Brooks, who really describes this exact same scenario with somebody who becomes successful, as you get to that first mountain and you just feel empty. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to get to the second mountain, which is having an impact, which is being a part of a community. And that's really, truly where you can find that deep sense of satisfaction. Because otherwise, as you say, it seems that whether it's genetic or what have you, we can be so easily on this roller coaster ride of it's never enough. And that's a default human state as far as I'm concerned. Across fields and industries and professions, is that if you get $1 million, well, then you need to get $10 million. And if you get, say, 5,000 views on a video, now you need to get 15,000 views on a video, or you're a failure. And that seems to be a 100% across the board expression. And it can be really difficult to pull back from that, to not associate ourselves, our ego, from what our current success is.
You're so thoughtful, Cody, and you evoke so many things for me in your remarks. So I want to start with this idea about the mountains, because we would contend there is no mountain. There just isn't. You're on a path. And so there's no mountain to climbing, and there's no second mountain to climb. With all due respect, I haven't read the book. It sounds amazing, by the way. But that's the mindset that we hope that many will get into, because we damage ourselves climbing that mountain. That's where a lot of the, you referenced Huberman's podcast on that. I'd seen it, but I didn't listen to it. And the fear comes with anxiety. It comes along with so much that if you believe in the mind-body connection, which if you're listening to Huberman, you do, you're damaging yourself and you don't even realize it. So wherever it is that you're trying to get to, and why it's never enough, which I always like to ask people, they get to a certain plateau, so to speak, and they're ready for the next thing. And they say, I can't, it's never enough. I always like to say, what is that all about? Question mark. Have you ever paused to think about what that is about? Why is that? I need you to go like 3, 4, 5 layers deep on that, because you might think it's about providing for your family, but Cody, you and I know you can provide for a family on much less than $1 million or 10 million or 20 or 100 million or et cetera. Keep going. You can do that. It'd be a different lifestyle, but you could do it. And by the way, I'm all about being successful and having wealth. I'm not saying don't do that. Please go do that. I just want you to do it with peace. I don't want you to damage yourself mentally and physically in the meantime. So, okay, I'm going to pause there and I'm going to go to discovery number 2, which are decisions are made out of love or fear. And I'm glad you brought up fear with your reference to Andrew Huberman. Love is from our heart, fear from our ego. Decisions aren't all we're referencing here, but it's the way we say it. It's emotions, it's feelings, it's thoughts. So it's tuning in to what's happening with you right now. Am I feeling, let's use a feeling. Am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling anxious? Is that feeling coming from something I'm fearing? Is my ego in play right now? The ego that you want to, I mean, ego has good and bad things, I guess you could say. It has a kind of continuum. So it's not all bad. You have to know what part of your ego is showing up at this moment and why you're feeling. And once you understand that, you have that awareness, then you can use different ways, which we could talk about different ways, to bring yourself to the present moment, understand the feeling, and understand how to shift that feeling. So you bring it from dark to light is a way to say it, which brings some level of peace, inner peace inside. And that's a continual practice that we go through on a daily basis, many, 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 many times throughout our days. But the more we do this and we have awareness around it, becomes more common and I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, easier. Because we want to come from a place of love. And in business, this is, I think, important for especially a lot of young entrepreneurs. Many of our decisions are coming from fear. They're coming from our ego. Again, it could be things like wanting to have our business be a certain size because we think that that's going to show the world something and we're afraid to fail. So we put every ounce of our energy into it so other people can recognize us as successful. That's fear-based. Love-based is we build our business from our heart. We don't care what other people think. We make decisions within our business that fuel our inside, our true self, what really matters. We're not being affected by societal expectations. Sometimes those come from families, schools we went to, or circles we run in, things of that nature. So maybe we have a situation where we're trying to expand our business and we notice a competitor is doing X, Y, or Z, but we're really focused on ABC and we're really damn good at ABC, but we see competitor doing X, Y, Z. And all of a sudden we say, oh my God, we got to start doing X, Y, Z in addition to ABC, which is going to take away focus and how great we are at ABC. But competitors doing it, and I don't want to lose ground. I'm afraid. I'm afraid we're going to lose ground. I got to jump on that bandwagon and get into that sector or that product line or whatever it is you're doing. Also, that's a fear-based decision. How about people? Sometimes we have people in our organizations where they're really good at something, but they are not a cultural fit. But we don't want to rock the boat because they're good at what they're doing. Maybe they're a great salesperson, by the way. That's scary. When you have a great salesperson who does not fit your culture, to be able to come from love on that, culture's number one. To let that person go, that's scary. That's fear. When you hold on to them and make excuses why, that's fear-based decision-making in business.
Yeah. I loved your question on this in the book where you asked the reader if you knew your significant other, your best friend, or your top employee would be better off without you, would you let them go? Could you take your hooks out of them? If you answer no, you are attached and you're hanging on to them. You are making a fear-based decision. And that's not good for them. It's not good for you. And that's operating from a place of fear.
Yeah. Take it outside of business. Thank you for reading that. Boy, it's tough when you have somebody close to you in your life that you're attached to. And, could you do that? Could you let them go if that's what's best for them? Might not feel best for you, but is that what's best for them? That's a very, very hard and deep question. But yes, we have our hooks in people and they have their hooks in us, some people too. That's an important thing to recognize.
I think it's a harder question to ask. How can we cultivate that sense of will? Because there's so often, whether I make a decision and I know others, you end up being in this situation where you either know somebody's not right or you know what the right thing is that you should do, but then you just don't want to do it. You don't want to go drive 2 hours to your friend's wedding and You don't want to let go of a person that might be your next partner. And yet, deep down inside, you know it's not going to work out, but you're too afraid to break that connection. And I've definitely been there. And then I end up making a decision by not making a decision. And then things just kind of linger. And then at 99% of the time, it doesn't work out. But I was still afraid to make that decision to let them go. How do you I know this is a difficult question to ask, but how do you cultivate that? Because I think it's easy to know what the right decision is, but it's so much more difficult to act on.
Yeah. So, the way we write about it in the book is the first thing under discovery two, decisions are made out of love or fear, is this recognition that your true self is in there. Your true self is in there. And what I want to share with the audience and with you is what that means, what your true self means. And I think by understanding that, your audience will have a better idea of what I'm talking about. So, this is the real you. It's the most authentic version of who you are. It's unshaped by societal expectations, professional roles, or social masks. It's the core identity that remains constant beneath the various hats that you wear in different areas of your life. And it's typically buried behind your ego, your personality, and the suit of armor that you have developed over your lifetime due to pain, trauma, and conditioning. And freeing your true self allows you to be authentic, free spirited, liberated, unconstrained, unbounded, unapologetic. It allows you to realize your full potential, live in alignment with your values, your passions, your beliefs, and desires rather than conforming to societal norms or external expectations, and bringing the best version of yourself to everything in your life. And your true self wants to be free, and it can be free. When you are free and you are fully your true self, you begin to experience inner peace, like I've been mentioning. You have some bliss, this feeling of bliss, this feeling of love. It's this opportunity. This opportunity is to remove everything that is preventing you from being your true self. This allows for you to be more creative, intuitive, impactful, and in flow. And this is how you'll shine more brightly. So with that description, this understanding that that is in you inherently, it's there. So your true self is in there. And the next thing that we talk about is you are pure energy. And for some people, that's really easy thing to understand. For others, it's kind of confusing. So wherever you are on that continuum, just stick with me. I'm going to do an oversimplification of it, which is we as people are made up of energy. We're made up of atoms and protons and cells, and they're constantly moving around in us. It's energy that's moving within us. I always like to say, have you ever met somebody, had a conversation with them, and when you're done and they walk away, you think to yourself, boy, that person had a really great energy. Or you might say, that person had a weird energy. That's actually an actual energy you are picking up on, not physical energy, not excitement. It's a vibe, is another way of saying it. It's an energy that they're exuding. So we are pure energy. And this energy can get blocked, okay? So it's blocked in ways that have to do with things and circumstances and challenges and all kinds of things that have happened to us in our life at some point. And they aren't always traumatic things. They're just things. And sometimes that energy gets blocked. And that causes us to make decisions from fear. If we can learn to be aware that I'm blocked right now, I'm stuck. Some people say I'm stuck. Some people say I can't get clear. If you can become aware of that, you can begin to work on unstucking yourself, unblocking yourself. You can do this by slowing down, by bringing your attention to the present moment, bringing your attention to your body, noticing sensations in your body as you think about this decision or this feeling or this emotion or this thought that you're having, and noticing in your body what you're feeling. Some people feel tense in their shoulders. Some people feel tightness in their chest. Some people feel like something in their gut. And if you could breathe into those areas of your body until it sort of dissipates, goes away. You're clearing this block. And when you clear that block, you think more clearly and you can begin to come from a place of love, from your heart, from your inside. So it's a way of helping us gain clarity so we can make our decisions from love and not fear.